Ready, be ready, start. The other objection which has been raised is that the agreement dated 12/2/1986 required registration under the provisions of the Indian Registration Act. The unregistered agreement would not be admissible in evidence, hence it could not be acted upon. Yet another objection which has been raised is that the suit was filed beyond the period of limitation. In support of the first contention, a reference has been made to Section 107 of the Transfer of Property Act, according to which the parties had to execute a registered lease deed, but the same was never done. We find that the High Court has rightly dealt with the question while holding that the plaintiff had not filed the suit for enforcement of agreement of lease. It was a suit filed for damages for the breach of contract. It was not a suit for specific performance of the contract. A promise was definitely held out by the defendant to the appellant for occupying the premises for a period of 3 years at a given rate of rent. The premises were in fact constructed in accordance with the instructions and specifications of the defendant. For raising the construction, the plaintiff had raised loans from the bank. Everything happened in accordance with the terms of the contract, except that the period of tenancy was interdicted before the 3 years of taking over of the possession by the defendant. Full stop. New para. In our view, the trial court and the High Court have rightly held that in absence of any lease deed or a registered lease deed, the nature of the lease would only be that of a monthly lease, but it does not mean that it would deprive the plaintiff or damages for breach of terms of an agreement, in accordance of which he had performed his part of the obligation by creating a liability against himself by taking loan from bank, and that it will be of no consequence as agreed in the agreement, since no lease was executed and registered. Full stop. The plinth was constructed in accordance with the design and specification given by the defendant. It may be of no use to any other person and for any other purpose. In this background, as what we was held out by the defendant assumes importance, and in case one who holds out a promise will have to compensate the party who had acted bona fidely on the basis of the promise made. Full stop. As indicated earlier, even the tender notice, besides other correspondence, all gave out that the defendant would occupy the premises for a period of 3 years. Everything was acted upon according to the agreement except the execution of lease deed. Hence, there was termination of tenancy on 15 days notice. Full stop. The plaintiff is not insisting that the defendant must retain possession of the remaining period or that the tenancy was not terminated, but termination of the tenancy would not necessarily mean that the defendant would also not be liable for compensating for the breach of promise held out in the terms of the agreement. Full stop. New para. While making any correction in the entries relating to these matters, the requirement of moving the application within 3 years has to be adhered to as any correction in regard to these entries would have an impact on the rights of other candidates when they seek admission to higher classes or employment. Full stop. However, the other particulars contained in the certificate, like the name of the candidates or the name of the parents of the candidates, are not that relevant, and any correction made in regard to these particulars would have no impact on the admission or employment of other candidates. When so considered, we feel persuaded to hold that the time limit of 3 years prescribed in the substantive part of Regulation 7 for submission of an application for making correction in the certificate issued by the board in regard to the name of the candidates or the name of the parents of the candidates should not have been insisted upon, particularly when the board itself considered it appropriate or the names of the parents of the candidate to have no time limit under the proviso for making correction in regard to any spelling mistake in the name of the candidate or his parents. Full stop. The application must, however, explain to the board the reason on the basis of which the application could not be submitted earlier, and if it is found that the claim is bona fide and is other justified, there is no reason to reject the application, as in the present case merely on the ground of delay. Undoubtedly, the board has to examine whether any genuine ground has been made out for correcting the name, and it would be open to the board to consider all the relevant materials pertaining to the request for correction of the name. Full stop. New para. In the circumstances, we are of the view that the impugned order of the first respondent rejecting the application submitted by the appellant for correction for the name of his mother in the high school and intermediate examinations only on the ground of delay is unsustainable. We are accordingly direct the first respondent to reconsider the application, having due regard to all the documentary evidence which may be produced by the appellant. The first respondent would also be at liberty to summon all the relevant records from the concerned institution for the purpose of deciding the application of the appellant. We clarify that the interpretation which we placed in the aforesaid terms governs only the mistakes in the certificate, the name of the candidate, of in the names of his parents. The first respondent shall now pass a fresh order in accordance with law within a period of 4 months from the date of receipt of a certified copy of this order. In order to facilitate this exercise, the impugned order dated 11 October 2013 is set aside. The order of the learned single judge shall in consequence be set aside and be substituted by the aforesaid directions. The appeal is accordingly allowed to the extent indicated above. Full stop. New para. Shri R.K. Singh, learned senior counsel, appearing for the respondent accused, countered the above arguments addressed on behalf of the appellants by contending that right to liberty was a fundamental right of a person under Article 21 of the Constitution of India, and that right could be curtailed only by a procedure known to law, and if that procedure established by law is not followed by the courts while refusing to grant bail, it is open to the aggrieved person to challenge and re-challenge the same before an appropriate forum. Full stop. He contended that Since people of res judicata or estoppel does not apply to criminal jurisprudence, there is no bar for an accused person to make successive bail applications and re-urge the questions which might have been urged earlier and negatived by the court. Therefore, it is open to a court considering the grant of a fresh bail application to reappreciate the material on record and come to a different conclusion even though the same has been rendered by a superior court. In other words, the rule of finality does not apply to bail petitions. He further submitted that the courts below, while considering the evidentiary value of the retracted confession in the earlier bail application, did not really appreciate by the court in Haricharan versus State of Bihar AIR 1964 SC 1184, which had been laid down that a retracted confession is a weak type of evidence. Full stop. Thank you.